we were stuck on getting in there and turning the light on. And I was very early in my career, and he didn't have full function of his arm, and he'd raise it like this, and he couldn't get it past shoulder. And one day he was in so the preparation for that is exercises and strengthening and electrical stimulation to reactivate the nerves to bring function back to
Oh
this
yeah.
arm. And then one day we walked in, we're so frustrated, he goes, F it, and hits it with his head and turns it on. Well, we just accomplished our goal. Who cares what means we got it by? And I go, are you cool with turning it
Mm-hmm.
on with your head? Yeah. Are you cool with it? And I go, yeah, well, it's not up to me. You have to live this way. And he said, yeah, I thought you wanted me to use your arm. So I think the part of it is also establishing that communication that's saying,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's meet together and compromise. Again,
Mm-hmm.
restore, adapt, compensate.
Look, hell of an intro. I tell you what you in for, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info.
Welcome to the Walk and Grill Show, everyone. It's Roney Courtney on the mic, and I haven't done this in a while where I would say to you guys, if you guys are actually finding value, you like what we're sharing, make sure to share it with a friend because you don't know what you can do to sharing just this sort of information or just the conversation in itself, what it can do to someone. I've been having a recent individual myself, and this is why I'm saying it, right? Because someone recently is like, I came across this and I can't believe you never told me about it. And I feel guilty. So I, am doing better and trying to share as much as possible. But we are here with another one. And as you guys know, we like to start off with every episode with how are you guys doing? So Ty, this is going to be your very first time hearing it. And we asked this question intentionally because everyone lies about it. In my opinion, right? Everyone lies about when you ask that question, how are you doing? And so Courtney and I, we got back and forth one day and I told her she can't no longer say, give me a one word answer. So you kind of got to dive deep into it. It's, if you're doing good, okay, well, why are you doing good?
Mm-hmm.
Because then we can discover if you're actually doing good or if you're just lying.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So if you don't mind, we'll start with I guess Courtney, do you want to go or you want to start with Ty? Ty?
We
Yeah.
can start with Ty and see how he's doing. So we, of course, talk about how you're doing is the main question. But one thing, and it was I was thinking about this earlier. A question that we've asked previously is how's your heart? And I was actually going to text Ronnie earlier and be like, I really want to ask Ty this, like specifically, because I just feel like I don't know, it's with the field that we're in and just the type of person you are. I feel like that's a better question for you. So you can answer either one, you can answer both. But how are you doing? How's your heart
How
today?
am I doing? How's my heart? So I can't give a one word answer, so I'll say I'm doing very well, and I can back that up. I think
Mm-hmm.
that in the context of how am I doing, I think is more of like an acute sense of how you're doing. So I think that this
Mm-hmm.
week I had a particularly great week. I'm very excited heading into the upcoming holiday. I know that some people celebrate, some people have mixed feelings about it, but for me personally, I'm excited to see my family. I've had a very good summer and a very good transition in the fall. I've had a lot of cool things happen in my personal life and in my professional life. Um, to all say that I'm doing well. I'm doing well and I'm trying to do good every day. Those are different, right? And then how's my heart? Asked by Courtney. I think my heart is doing well. I think I'm curious as to why you think that's a good question for me, but I would say my heart's doing well. If I measure that by feeling loved, loving others, seeing love in the world, I'd say my heart is doing really well. I think post pandemic, really, I think I'd say that we're still in the post pandemic of the rebuilding, and there's a lot of new first things happening from when the pandemic. I guess ended or things kind of opened back up. But I'd say that my heart is doing well. If measured by the love I receive and give and see, everything is well and good.
Nice. Yeah, he
I
nailed
think
it.
I think your answer is the reason why I asked you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just knew. I just knew. I had a feeling, so I was like, yeah, I got to make sure
Yeah, she knows
he
she knows
answers
that I
that
can
question
talk, so
specifically.
she knows that I'm a big talker, so she'd probably say, "Yeah, let's throw this lob up for him."
There it is. So Courtney, I gotta throw the alley oop to you. How's your heart?
My heart is also doing well this weekend. Yeah, it's been a very interesting weekend. I never do things on Fridays. That's just I don't know. I usually am
Yeah.
like chill on Fridays and then do stuff on Saturdays. And this this Friday was very busy for me, so that just makes the rest of the weekend feel so long. Like yesterday felt like Sunday, so then today felt like I got an extra Sunday. So it was just exciting, and I've been involved in rugby. I met some new people this weekend that were really nice, and I feel like I oh, I talk about this literally every single time, how I build connections and just the type of person that I am in terms of relationships. But I don't know, just meeting people that I'm like, I don't even care what capacity you're in my life, but I just have a feeling that you're going to be there. And it just feels so good. And yeah, and I've had a couple people tell me in the last couple weeks or so that, or even just this week, that they like immediately felt very comfortable with me or felt like they can be their authentic self. Some clients have said that, and then just a couple friends just kind of out of nowhere just said it to me. So it makes my heart feel really happy. And um, you could tell by how busy I am that I didn't even really think about Thanksgiving. So I thank you for bringing that up. I know it's this week. It's just, but I'm looking forward to that as well. My family will be together, and my whole family will be together. All of our animals will be together. So it'll be interesting, but I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. So my heart is full
Nice,
today.
nice, nice, nice.
Yeah. What
I'm
about you,
good,
Ronnie?
and I'm gonna say that with context. So I'm don't. I know I said you can't really use one word, but yeah, I'm doing good. I know in the past couple of episodes I've shared with a lot of you guys, I've been confused, and I think I'm getting closer to what it is that I needed, right? And so it's a beautiful thing to understand and just work through that magic, right? That we all got to go through when it comes to life. It's just kind of going through the motions of the day to day. So I'm doing good in better spirits. I mean, I was always in good spirits. It's just, of course, when you have a cloud over your head, it's difficult to kind of see things that you got to get through because it's life. There's not much more we can do about it. We can sit,
Mm-hmm.
complain, but I'm not, as you guys may know, I'm not a big complainer. I do it. And so I'm good. I'm better. And of course, having great conversations in this past couple of weeks, I will say, has definitely gave me a bit more clarity, and of course, given me that I guess put me in a better space where I don't have to be so confused moving forward. I can just kind of see things
Mm-hmm.
for what it is. Not going to really speak too much about the holidays because it's the
Mm-hmm.
holidays. I hope everybody that's out
You
there,
mentioned
definitely
it.
you could spend that time with your family, your loved ones, your friends, family, whatever the case may be. If you can, try not to spend it alone. That's just the one thing I would definitely say is because it is a time where you can, even if it's not loved ones, right? At least with a friend or somebody, so you can kind of get that experience of just being around good people. Again, everything we preach here is about being around good people and just having conversations. I think that's all. Sometimes just conversations could take a person from being the saddest individual to being the happiest person of the day, and just do
Mm-hmm.
that for yourself if, of course, you don't have family nearby.
And
I
I was
think
going
I
to
think
say,
something, Ronnie, you just talked about holidays with families, and I know that like sometimes families can be a mixed bag for folks, but like Friendsgivings, I feel like is almost like, oh yeah, this is a whole another holiday that I have to plan
Yeah.
for, and
mm-hmm.
they don't have set dates, so it's like, oh, in 2 weeks we're having our Friendsgiving, and then I got another Friendsgiving, and I think that that's a cool one that I feel like only recently in my life, as I kind of enter adulthood and now whatever
Mm-hmm.
my late 20s, early 30s, is like, oh yeah,
It's
Friendsgiving
a
is
thing
like
now.
gotta it's a thing now
Yeah.
that like is another obligation that how much more cornbread can
Mm-hmm.
I cook for these people?
Are you good at? Is that your specialty?
So yeah, I talked about COVID earlier. I'd say that one of my COVID hobbies was getting into the cooking
Okay.
thing, and now I'm a pretty good amateur chef,
Okay.
if I do say so myself. But yeah, cornbread is a good one. A cauliflower mash is another good one that I'm known for. So
I'm
yeah,
sorry for anybody that's listening right now. We're
Cool.
probably getting you hungry, so maybe you go get yourself a meal after this one.
there you go.
But I want to get right into things and just
Does
kind of
sound
tap
good.
into who are you and just kind of less what is it that you do? Where not necessarily where you're from or anything. If you want to share that by all means, but more or less what is it? Why?
Mhm.
Because I want the people to understand why we have you on because there's a reason. We don't just bring anybody on this, right? We have people that have in particular fields or do something specific. So just wanted to kind of get a little bit of understanding of who's Ty.
Yeah, so Ty is a Springfield College graduate where he met your lovely co-host Courtney. That's sort of where we met, and I went to Springfield College to take part in the occupational therapy program. So I'd say that um, I am an occupational therapist. I'm a working practicing occupational therapist in Massachusetts. And I'd say that being an OT is very much at the forefront of who I am, how I think. And it's one of those things where I think I've gotten better as I've worked longer and progressed in my career as an OT. But it's one of those things where there might be prerequisite skills to be an OT, like being
Mm-hmm.
creative, using critical thinking, really emphasizing connection and taking a look at a whole person. I'd say that's what makes a great OT, and I'd like to think that that's some of my qualities as I was learning to be an OT that I've carried through now in my practice. Um, I've worked in a bunch of different settings. I've worked in a bunch of different companies with different uh, age clients of different backgrounds. And right now, I'm currently working in pediatrics at an alternative school as an occupational therapist. I also work at an outpatient clinic where I've spent the last 2 years. I'm a DIR floor time certified therapist, and maybe we can talk about what
Oh
that
yeah.
is a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Please.
yeah, but I'd say that in the context of who I am, I'd say that I'm an OT, and that's probably maybe one of the reasons why you guys invited me on. I think that if you know anything about the field of occupational therapy, um, whether it's right or wrong, I kind of stick out like a sore thumb, um, and I think that that's important. I think um, a lot of times representation is important. Um, for people to see, oh, that's something I could get into, but then also it's representative. Representation is important to have when you're working with individuals. And I think that,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for my clients, I'm probably one of the only male clinicians in their life. I'm probably one of the only male therapists in their life. I think that OT wise is a very female dominated field. And I think that there's certainly an area for the 6'4", 400-pound, grizzly bearded, long curly haired um, space, and I kind of take pride in that, making sure that it's a safe representation, so that if I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with a child who has someone in their life that looks like me, or it has some or is underrepresented in the traditional masculine representation that some people might have in their life, I think that it's a unique blend that can really benefit some people. It's not for everyone, but I think making sure that there's an option for people out there is important, and I take pride in carrying that into my practice.
It's just the intro, and it's already a great episode.
Oh,
It's fantastic. I do want you to. That's me clapping.
yeah,
I would love for you to talk a little bit more just about occupational therapy, like basics
Yeah.
level, just because I know being in. Honestly, the reason I know what it is because I went to Springfield and because my best friend at the time was in the OT program, and we talked about it, and as we know, of course, Springfield is a very working with people, working with athletics, working with whatever, just helping professions, all stuff
sure,
like
yeah.
that. So we did get to learn a lot about other programs,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, like
not
I
a lot of people do.
myself, I have no idea. Courtney briefed me on it, but I even after reading it, it's like, okay, well, I have a little bit of understanding. So, for myself, including, so guys, I don't know it all, and I try not
Yeah,
to. So,
OT
yeah.
101.
sure. So I guess this is from day one at Springfield. They teach you your elevator speech or your elevator pitch,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like a lot of you guys are not alone. You're definitely not in the minority. I think a lot of people don't know what occupational therapy is, and I think a lot of people don't know what it is unless one is in their life or they've worked with one. So I would just like to say that your elevator speech or your summary of what an OT is can vary greatly. And I would say that for me, particularly, an occupational therapist is a clinician who takes evidence based practice to help an individual engage and perform in their daily
Okay.
occupations. And this is where the definition can explode and can be a wide ranging type of subjects, because
Mm-hmm.
what are your daily
Right.
occupations? That varies based on whether you're a child, whether you're an individual with a disability. That varies based on your socioeconomic background. That varies based on your race, your gender, where you live, how old you are, your skill ability level. So, in theory, an occupational therapist is supposed to take the individual differences of the individual they're working with and help. analyze what they need to improve on and what they can do to get done the things that they need to get done. I think that occupational therapy, for me in particular, in my practice, I look through it through three different lenses: restorative, adaptive, and compensatory. And maybe we can talk about like what that means as I frame it
Mm-hmm.
through my practice. But as a pediatric OT, I look at the occupations of kids, I look at their individual differences, and I try to understand what is the best course to help them be as independent and as functional as possible. And again,
Mm-hmm.
independence and functionality are other things where, based on who you are and your values, those definitions can vary greatly.
Gotcha. So
Um,
I
so
want to
maybe,
interject really quickly because I hear what
yeah,
it is that you do, but for the person that's thinking, okay, well, when is an OT going to be effective in my life? Like, how is it? Not to say diagnosing anybody, because this is not what we do here, guys. If you guys ever want to get diagnosed,
yeah,
go see your professional. But in a sense where anybody is trying to identify, all right, well, how is an OT going to be effective in my life? What are like the few things that one should at least pay attention to, or to identify? Okay, well, maybe now it's time to go take that step further and go speak to someone.
yeah, absolutely. So an occupational therapist usually comes per recommendation of your
Got it.
doctor, or your MD, or in a school setting, your teacher or your caregiver. Um, and basically, if you ever find yourself having a barrier to accomplish something you need to do, that could be because you had skills and abilities and something happened and they had a decline. So this a lot of times in the context of OT could be medical events. So you fell and broke your hip, or you had a stroke, um, or you were sick and laying in a hospital bed for a long time. This could be for the context of a child. You recently have a diagnosis of autism. This could be for someone with substance abuse concerns. This could be you relapsed, and now you need to reach out and you need to find someone who can kind of take a look at the individual differences in your life and understand what they can do to help you get back to where you need to be or where you think you need to be. And I think that sometimes through that process of working with an OT, your understanding of realistically where you what you can do and where you can need to be are different. So I say that an occupational therapist helps someone get done whatever they need to get done. Okay, well I'm 5 feet tall and I want to play in the NBA and I'm 36 years old and I've never played basketball. Okay, well, probably not going to happen. So let's sit down and have that realistic conversation, and let's see why you think you need to be in the NBA, what boxes, and how you think that's going to fulfill your occupations. Right? That's going to
Mm-hmm.
fill you up as a human being and make you feel fulfilled. And let's talk about if there's a way that we can adapt, restore, or compensate to see if we can still get you what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said
Mm-hmm.
5 foot. It's like he's taking
That's
shots at
great.
somebody right now.
Uh-oh.
No,
Oh
you're
man.
good.
Hey, it's been done before, right? Spud Webb, but
Eh,
maybe he had a leap on
yeah,
people.
Nate Robinson was another one.
There you
So
go.
we had
Yeah,
a few Airborne cases, a few individuals who were
yeah.
able to make it
Okay.
happen.
Oh, Courtney, you didn't tell me he was a basketball guy. You
Hey,
want to go down the list here?
you find out new things the more you talk to people. So hey, there we go.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
But no, definitely thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing. Like, how is it that some individuals can kind of get exposed to that? As you were kind of having that conversation, I was like, well, I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody could really use an OT. I mean, I don't really think you need something specifically to happen to you. It's more or less if you just fall short of something and you kind of see this, you're kind of, I guess, just where you're at and kind of declining is kind of when you can kind of get that boost up and just again speak to someone that could probably help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Courtney, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I kind of had a question. I have a couple, but were you talking about preparation, talking about like understanding like setting goals prior to working with them and prior to like getting started on the action? Um, how much, what am I trying to say, training do you need or anything regarding like just mental health in general and just those conversations? If someone has these major goals and you have to be the one to
Yeah,
sit with them to say,
not this one.
maybe not that we're saying no, right? No
Hmm.
one's ever saying like absolutely not going to happen, right?
Yeah,
But and just it literally sounds like you're just a mental health, like a behavioral health clinician first, and then and then the occupational therapist comes after that part. but how much training do you
Yeah,
need in
so
like just
so
mental health?
so I'd say in order to obtain my OT degree, I think I was in an accelerated program at Springfield. I think it was 5.5 years. Um, but I'd say that the training in order to make that human connection and understand that therapeutic relationship is training ongoing through your practice. It's through interacting with people every day. It's through making yourself aware of cultural differences, of individual differences, and really being able to make a connection with people. I've had clients in a nursing home where sometimes, based on our rapport, I'll walk in and say, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, how you doing today? You've been recommended for occupational therapy. Let's see what we can do." And she'll say, "I want to get up and walk out of here." And I've had individuals tell me, "My goal is ultimately to ride my
Mm.
motorcycle again." Okay. Well, when was the last time you stood or were out of bed? Okay, well, it's been the better part of 10 years. And now that you can kind of take that, and maybe this person has their own mental health things going on, or maybe they have their own cognitive decline going on. And you can kind of take the path of, you never rode riding your motorcycle again. Get realistic, buddy. Like, let's focus on what we can do, or you can kind of be sensitive and you can understand what this means to them, right? Why do you want to ride your motorcycle again? Well, you should see it. It's a beautiful Harley. When I was on it, nothing's better than going down the Cape Cod highways as the sun's setting. Oh man, wow, that's really awesome. You go to Cape Cod a lot? Oh, me and my kids had a house
Yeah.
down there. And then after some conversation and some time with this person, you understand he just wants to see the sunset. So then what if I can say, go to social work, go to the building supervisor and say, "Hey, is there any way we can get Mr. Jones, a room where he can see the sunset, or is it possible to organize a day trip a couple times a week to really make him see?" And you take point A, I'm sad, I'm disgruntled, I'm becoming depressed, and recluding myself from my life, and then after working with me, we can kind of kickstart some things that can help put him in a better position to fulfill his needs.
Definitely. That's so cool. I think just me saying that I know what occupational therapy is, I honestly just missed that piece of like how important that part is of I think I was just thinking more action and more
Hmm.
like physical things that
Yeah,
need to be
absolutely.
done, but that's so important. That's so cool.
And I think that it's not wrong of you to think that way. I think that
Hmm.
particularly OT in the behavioral health or mental health or pediatric settings, there's a lot more. There's a lot less of kind of that physical. Um,
Hmm.
Occupational therapist kind of goes hand in hand with physical therapy.
Mm.
I'd
Yeah.
say that physical therapy is for strength and mobility. Occupational therapy is for function and independence. So uh, it's one of the things, like I talked about earlier, what drew me to this profession. It's one of those ways I can be creative and problem solving. And I have little stories that have kind of stuck with me throughout my career of, you know, working with someone who lived alone in an apartment and had a TBI and had a limb removed from a motorcycle accident. And for weeks and months, we were trying to work on this bathroom routine because that's a daily occupation of someone who has to live independently. He has to go from his room to the bathroom, get washed up, use the facilities. That's what he needs to do day to day. We were stuck on getting in there and turning the light on. And I was very early in my career, and he didn't have full function of his arm. And he'd raise it like this, and he couldn't get it past shoulder. And one day he was in so the preparation for that is exercises and strengthening and electrical stimulation to reactivate the nerves to bring function back to
Oh
this
yeah.
arm. And then one day we walked in, we're so frustrated, he goes, F it, and hits it with his head and turns it on. Well, we just accomplished our goal. Who cares what means we got it by? And I go, "Are you cool with turning it on with your head?" "Yeah." "Are you cool with it?" And I go, "Yeah, well, it's not up to me. You have to live this way." And he said, "Yeah, I thought you wanted me to use your arm." So I think the part of it is also establishing that communication that's saying, like, let's meet together and compromise. Again, restore, adapt, compensate. We tried to restore his ability to turn on the light. Um, so we had to find an adaptive way, which was not using our hand, using our head.
Restore, adapt, and compensate. Is
That's
that
so
correct?
cool.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's the lens. That's the lens through which I look at working with someone with an OT. So you come to me on day one and you say, um, "My child can't feed themselves." Or I used to be able to um, drive my car. And then I look at, okay, what happened? Why can't you do that anymore? And that kind of sets the heading as to how I'm going to work
Mm,
with you. Okay, so if you used to drive your car and you broke your arms and you lost function in your hands, we need to restore that. If one of your arms is missing because of whatever medical event, we can't restore that, so we have to adapt that. Now, if you
Mhm.
don't have arms and you don't have the prerequisite skills to learn how to drive, we're going to compensate and we're going to organize rides for you. I'm going to help you download ride sharing apps. I'm going to teach you public transportation. So, again,
Mhm.
looking at means and looking at ends is constantly a part of my practice. It helps me kind of meet individuals who work with me where they
hmm.
are.
You said a few words: independence. You have to get creative. And we had a conversation recently about AI, and a lot of individuals, a lot of individuals may be
Yeah.
getting a little bit dependent on AI, and I hope people just don't. But of course, who knows where the world's going to really take us? So I'm curious to know,
Yep.
first and foremost, are you using AI to help yourself at all in your creative process?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
you haven't.
I, I think that AI is a very unique, um, I guess, emerging
Yeah.
technology, and I can see how it will definitely be applicable to my setting. I don't know if it's there yet. I have my $1 million out, and once I become an AI programmer for occupational therapy specific things. But what this was a topic in our conversation in my setting a few months ago, kind of in the summer when it boomed, and in 5 years no one's going to be working. And I like to frame it like this, and maybe this is my a little bit arrogant way of poo-pooing AI. When a computer can get a nonverbal child with autism to eat a blueberry, then I'll be worried for my job
Got it.
security.
Got it. Courtney, why are you laughing for? It was a good question. It was
I,
like, come on.
I just like it. I know it's perfect. It's fine. I like the conversation. I just Ronnie is just like a AI
So
spokesperson.
interestingly enough, I've kind of thought about this in my own practice with individuals. So I work with an individual with autism in high school who has executive functioning challenges. Executive functioning, for those of you who don't know, is your ability to take in information in real time and make informed, appropriate decisions. So, in the context of this, is I'm getting ready in the morning. I look out my window and see that it's snowing, and I put on, you know, long pants, long sleeves, and a heavy coat. Someone without executive functioning skills or who needs to improve their executive functioning skills would just go in, get dressed, and they come out with a tank top and a bathing suit. You're not reading. So I'm wondering, as far as someone with executive functioning challenges, is AI a way to adapt and compensate for those
Hmm.
skills? It's an
Hmm.
interesting question that I'm not really sure of. So this
Hmm.
individual is in high school. He has, you know, dyslexia, autism, executive functioning skills, and sometimes sitting down and trying to write a paper on the Roman Empire, another one that's been in the news, right? And how often do we think about that? Um, is it worth having him access AI to kickstart
Mm.
that and help organize that information for him to do his paper? I know, but then it's kind of that gray area where I think kids in
Hmm.
school now are just, hey, AI, write my paper on the Roman
Yeah.
Empire for me. So I
Hmm.
want to see if we can use AI for good and not for complacency and not
Hmm.
productive work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
That's why I kind of
definitely.
mentioned I hope it doesn't become a dependent thing. It's more of a just used to enhance. But again, we'll see where the world
Hmm.
takes us. You mentioned the Roman Empire being in the news. I'm sorry, this is off task, but what happened? Is there something that happened?
Yeah, Ronnie, how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Never. I probably haven't thought about it since high school. Since they made us learn about it. Oh yeah,
Really? I think about it almost
really? Why
daily.
is that? Am I lost? Am I? Am I supposed to be understanding something right now?
Courtney, maybe you're on this side of TikTok. You want to fill him in?
Ronnie does not like TikTok.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of background on it. All I know is it was like a trend where people are, that's literally all they do. How often do you think of the Roman Empire? And just
So
like
I think
people just
I think the inside joke was a lot of times, on TikToks I've seen it was like female and or um, girlfriends or wives or partners asking their male partners,
Mhm.
how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And the array of answers was shocking. It was, for whatever reason, every male figure would be like, yeah, a couple times last week. Everyone had kind of a unique thing. And it's one of these things where, why is this so at the forefront of our male
Right.
psyche that we think about like gladiators in the Colosseum and Julius Caesar?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and just the fact that people were so upfront and honest about like, I think about it all the time. It's like, well, that's weird. And why do we all have this collective thought?
Right. Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. I got to
Yeah.
get back into society and get hip. I guess I see. Is TikTok
Mhm.
the way? I guess. I guess maybe it gets re-downloaded on my phone. Who knows? But
Maybe,
Mhm.
who knows?
Yeah, I didn't know where it came from. I'd seen a couple videos here and there, but that was funny. But I love anyone who'll mess with Ronnie,
it's all
especially
good.
live.
It's all good.
So
We're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy life. So you don't have to take anything serious. Again, if you haven't by it
no, it's
yet, share
perfect.
this episode or just share any of our episodes with anybody. This is your time to do so. I'm gonna hold that guilty conscience over your head
Mhm.
until you do that. But Courtney, I don't know if you have a question.
Perfect. Yeah. I am interested because so my experience going into Springfield, I honestly was like, sure, PE sounds that sounds good. I like kids. I like sports. That's as much thought as I put into my major. I'm gonna be completely honest. And now I'm a therapist, and so I did my master's program for something very different, but also like you mentioned, the creativity and the connecting to people, and I definitely found my love for teens. So I'm always fascinated and excited about how similar, believe it or not, PE and health education is
Sure.
to being a therapist. But so my question is, did you know, how do you know about this stuff going into Springfield? How do you know what I mean? Did you know for sure this is what you wanted to be in, or where did you have that information?
No, so I think I'm very, very lucky, and I'm very, very grateful for how lucky I was. Um, I found out about occupational therapy. So I guess we'll back up to a little bit about me growing up. So I went to a public high school. Ronnie and I kind of touched about earlier about how I was a basketball guy. I was a big basketball guy. Um, really enjoyed it. It was kind of the only reason I wanted to go to school. Maybe grades weren't
Mm-hmm.
my at the forefront of my mind. I was always a pretty good student, but my plan was to play in the NBA, and no one was going to tell me different. And when you at 14 years old, you say that, and then you're going to go, maybe not. And then at 15, you go, it's definitely happened, and everyone goes, no, it's not. And then didn't even really consider what I wanted to do as a career or as a profession because of playing high school basketball at 300 pounds. I was injured a lot and I was in physical therapy a lot. So I was constantly going into um, physical therapy, and I just kind of enjoyed that process of like, oh, wow, this is interesting. People using science to get better and help me get back
Mm-hmm.
on the court. Um, Still, again, not really considering it as a career. Then kind of fast forward into later in my high school career, I was fortunate enough to be recruited to play basketball at a prep school, where I was very fortunate that I was able to have some financial assistance so I could play basketball there. I reclassified, so I went to high school for 5 years. And this high school was no joke. This high school, I had 50 kids in my graduating class. From day one, you had a college advisor you'd meet with weekly, and you had a college advisory class where it was a college prep high school, and their job was to get you to go to college. No one here is not going to college. So part of that class was you'd have to go with your family to visit high schools. I mean, sorry, visit colleges. You'd have to sit in open houses. You'd have to prove that you did this stuff. So a lot of my junior year at this place was weekends were traveling with mom and dad to visit Sacred Heart University, to visit Tufts University, to go up to Bowdoin, to go to Castleton State, to go to Coastal
Mhm.
Carolina, all these places. And of course, me being like, don't these guys know I'm going to the NBA still? Um,
You tell them. You tell
uh,
them.
right. And then the I started to get recruited to play basketball at some places, and it wasn't Duke, and it wasn't Gonzaga. It was Division III schools. It was Bridgewater State University, WPI, Worcester Polytech Institute, and then Springfield. One of them was the University of Scranton. And when you go to these open houses, I had an official recruiting trip at the Division III level. And I went, I played basketball with the team, but as a part of this open house recruiting process, you had to go to a major open house. And I said, well, I don't care what I want to do. Let me just write physical therapy. I'll go to the physical therapy once the coach is happy. I'll grab lunch with mom, and then we'll have a nice 4 hour drive back. Um, so I remember being at the University of Scranton and like not doing well in the open court. I was recruited, we played, it was kind of like an open gym, and these guys were pretty good, and I was getting my butt kicked. So much so that the coach was probably even like, I'm going to leave. See you later. And I was like, oh, but I'm here for my recruiting trip. And he was like, enjoy yourself. So it was kind of this like, oh man, maybe I'm not going to be playing at Duke. And am I not going to the NBA at 18 years old? Am I figuring this out?
Hmm.
So then we had to go into the physical therapy open house, and I just wanted to get back home. I kind of needed to figure out, damn, what am I going to be doing now? I kind of got to wake up, and I've kind of been half-assing this college thing. And I sat in the physical therapy open house, and I remember hearing, um, out of 500 applicants, we select 20. You have to maintain a 4.0 in order to be a part of this program. And then you can do a bunch of really challenging, like it was like no joke. This was serious student stuff, and I was kind of like, I don't think I'm there yet. So now even the thing that I fake wanted to be, I can't do. So this is not going to be good. So then I've told this story a lot. So I apologize if this sounds rehearsed, because I get this question a lot as a male in occupational therapy, and this is my meat-headed male answer. As I was walking out of the physical therapy open house, the girl who I went to, who I had a crush on at my new high school, was walking into the occupational therapy open house. And it was kind of like two kids from southeastern Massachusetts, both in Scranton on some random weekend, and she's gorgeous, and I have a huge crush on her. And she's walking in and goes, "Oh my God, Tyler, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to go to the OT open house." And I go, "Oh my God, me too. We should go to it and then grab lunch afterwards." So then we prolonged the trip. And then I remember hearing things in the OT open house, again, pretty dry content, but I'm sitting next to a very pretty girl. Um, and hearing things like, out of 300 applicants, we select 30. And I go, well, those are better odds right off the bat. So maybe, I couldn't do 25 out of 500, but 30 out of 300. Now we're talking my level here. And then I remember we did end up grabbing that lunch, and I talked to her. And it turns out that she had a brother with developmental delays, and she just kind of said that OTs have been in and out of their life the whole time. It's really made a profound impact on her brother. And when I heard the different things that the OTs had done with her family, everything just sounded awesome and sounded like, well, I could do that. Like, I could do that. I could do that. I could, and that's really where I learned about it. And then that's where I kind of said, OT. I'm not even fully 100% sure what it is, but let me get my boat in the water, and then I'll steer it after I kind of learn, right? We're going to hit the ground running with this. And that's when I applied to Springfield College. Courtney, believe it or not, I was recruited to play basketball there. That lasted about 6 days. And then I played
About
football.
as long as my Springfield College softball career.
Sure. So then I ended up pivoting and playing football. Again, that was an awesome blessing in my life that I look back fondly on. But that whole story is just to say that, basketball was in my life, and Springfield College came in my life, and it was all to kind of put me in the direction of what I'm doing now and really what makes me
Mhm.
so fulfilled. I think that
Mhm.
I really enjoy going to work every day, and that right there, some people live their whole lives not being able to say that, and sometimes that
Mhm.
really impacts people's lives and mental health.
Yeah.
Hating going to
Absolutely.
work, hating your job, and I really don't feel that where I'm at now. So I think that
Mhm.
I'm really lucky and really fortunate.
Mhm. I love that. Such a good story.
And then me and that girl never ended up dating or seeing each other. I,
That was my next
yeah, I took her
question.
sister to prom, and that kind of caused a rift. And she ended up actually going to the University of Scranton, and she's a practicing OT with just a
Mhm.
very handsome husband who looks nothing like me. So it was never in the cards.
Something that you mentioned though, it sounded like you had to make a lot of pivots and just whether it was career changes,
Mhm.
mindset, and just kind of getting yourself back into reality. What is there anything that helped you do that, or is it just kind of who you are to just manage to you find your way as you mentioned, just getting the boat into the water and you'll sail it, or you're directed once you're there.
Yeah, I think it's the second thing you said. I think it's me learning as I go, um, learning to steer that boat. Again, jumping in and then figuring out how you can tailor it to
Yeah.
yourself. I
Mhm.
work with pediatrics, and like I previously mentioned, I love it. I love every day. When I was at Springfield, even learning about OT, and we had to do our level 2 field work. So you have to put in your settings that so you have 2 3 month rotations, um, where you're basically working as an OT under the supervision of a licensed OT, but it's the real deal. You're working. It's unpaid. It's part of your field work
Mhm.
experience in order for you to sit for your licensure exam. And I remember I don't want to be peds. Don't put it down. I'm not interested in it. I don't want to work with kids. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think anyone wants me to work with their kids, and we're good. So I'm definitely not working with kids, and it wasn't even a thing I thought about. I actively prevented it.
Mhm.
And then looking back, that definitely was me kind of who knows why fighting something that I was probably born to do, for my own preconceived notions of I just thought that
Mhm.
I'm a big, scary, grizzled looking guy. I can't see myself working in a tiny little office with crayons and dolls,
Mhm.
and I don't think it would serve the kids. I don't think it would be beneficial for them. Um, so I ended up working in skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes, with the total opposite end of the uh, setting and
Right.
population of occupational therapy.
Gotcha. So, is there at any point in time did you feel as if, all right, like you? So you said that you're jumping into it. Were you fearful at all of like failing or just this not working out or anything of that nature, or you just
I think analyzing my 19-year-old or 20-year-old brain at that time, I think I really didn't have a long
mm,
vision. I just said, I'm going to be an OT, it's going to take this long, and then I'm going to make X amount of money and I'll be good for my life. And then nothing bad will ever happen and pandemics won't happen and I'll be able to buy a
Mhm.
house and no one will die and everything's good and life will be perfect after I do this.
Mhm.
And then I think that as you learn and grow and life changes and things happen, you have to adjust in real time.
mm,
And I think that part of that is difficult. Part of that is weighing, do I feel like my needs are being met and I'm being served and fulfilled right now? And then really sitting down and being honest with yourself and honest with the people you care about around you, um, to make the best decision
yeah,
possible for you. And for me, that was
Mhm.
changing my setting in
yeah.
OT.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could be
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
could be
love that.
difficult sometimes to do all of that. Of course, it requires some sort of work
sure,
and just
sure,
patience to kind of navigate through the entire process, which is why I wanted to pick your brain a
sure.
bit. Go ahead.
And and
Mhm.
especially without that life experience at 19, 20 years old, you don't have the experience to make these informed
Yeah.
decisions, and you're kind of,
Mhm.
um, you don't know a lot about the world and a lot about what things are important. If you ask me what was important to me at 21, it's much different than what's important to me at 31.
Mm-hmm.
And then now those two different people are making decisions for the same guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how life experience and learning and just being open and honest with yourself really is important.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight something you had just mentioned, asking yourself the question of like, are my needs being met and am I feeling fulfilled? And I just wanted to bring it back up because I think for so many people they're not asking themselves that question. They're not doing the reflection that's necessary, and a lot of it, I mean, everyone has their own needs, everyone has their own experiences, and unfortunately finances I think is a huge part of that.
Yeah,
Like you talked about, like not being able to, say that you love your job or whatever the case may be,
yeah,
but I want that to be something that people take from this as well, is just like, are, like you said, are my needs being met? Am I feeling fulfilled? And what are some ways that, if the answer is no to those questions, what are some things that I can do? And it doesn't always mean changing your profession. Of course,
sure.
that's major. But what are some small things that can be done to get to that point? Because it is
Go
it is
talk to
super
your manager.
important.
Say, I need a
Yeah,
pay raise. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, guys. Go ahead, Ty. Go ahead, Ty.
I think, and I think that again, it kind of naturally kind of goes along with my story there. After I graduated from OT, I got a job through a Springfield connection from a former alumni who lived in my area, who said, "Hey, we're hiring for an OT. We're going to work in a nursing home." Okay, great. Yeah, I did one of my field works in a nursing home. I really like the geriatric population, but again, I'm still learning what it is to be an OT. Um, I think that because of the way insurances are set up, that setting is the highest paying for occupational therapists. Um, Actually, I think the two highest paying states for OT is Florida and Arizona, because where do all the old folks go when they retire? All the
That
places that
is
it's for,
true.
right?
That is
So
true.
You did good there.
I was,
You did good there.
yeah, I was fully in. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to be skilled nursing OT, um, and I got pretty good at it pretty quickly. I'd say that I definitely was chasing money. I think that starting out, I probably made, I don't know what the exact figure was, but within a couple of years, I was, again, through another unique set of circumstances and kind of right place, right time, but then also being good at my job in that setting, I was going to be a director of rehab. So I was a director of rehab for a privately owned facility. I was living in Quincy, Massachusetts at the time. Um, I had a per diem job where I did very well there. I kind of made an impact and really liked going there. It was a beautiful facility. And again, it was per diem. So not a full time position, kind of as you're needed. I went in there one day. Um, the schedule wasn't set. The director was out sick, or there was a family emergency. I was very competent at that stuff at my full time job, and we had a bunch of therapists kind of sitting around not knowing what to do. So I kind of said, okay, well, I can look at the schedule and look at the insurances and look at where everyone is in their treatment and kind of get everyone started until someone who knows what they're doing can show up. And then I did that. It was like a Saturday day or something. And then, of course, this woman comes in, fumbling around. I'm so sorry. I had to come from New Hampshire. So and so is out sick. I'm going to get this started. And they went, oh, that guy set everything up. Oh, how did you know how to do that? Oh, it's kind of my role at my other job. Blah, 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 blah. That person ended up being the CEO of the therapy company I was
Whoa.
working for, and I didn't know. So then she approached me and asked if I wanted to be the director of rehab for a facility that they were finalizing the contract for. Um, I saw that I was going to make six figures at 26 years old, and said, "Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, sounds great." Um, Without, again, now this is again 25-year-old Tyler making decisions without all the information. The facility was 2 hours away from my apartment. Um, 2 hours away, so there and back. I really had only 4 years of experience. Really didn't understand anything about being an OT. and just took this because it was a great opportunity that presented myself that I clearly was not ready for. And I started working there in January of 2020. And then 3 months later, guess where the worst place on earth
Mm.
was? Nursing homes. So now you had someone who had no idea what they were doing, extremely expendable because they were being paid an exorbitant amount of money to not provide services and to actively work in a building where people were afflicted with the pandemic. And it became really miserable really fast. I think even the 4 hour commute every day was enough to really impact my
Yeah.
mental health. Um, I hated going to work. I hated going to drive 2 hours to a building where everyone was sick. There wasn't a lot we could do for them. And my company and the privately owned nursing home were now terminating contracts. I was the only one left. I was let go right in the middle of the pandemic. I had to leave my apartment in Quincy. I moved back home with dad. That was, again, very fortunate that I'm in a position where I could do that because I know a lot of people couldn't. But that came with its own set of stressors. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, really, again, sitting down, being honest, I'm not fulfilled. What am I doing? And now I have this degree. I have my student loans. I'm working as an OT, and I'm not happy. So
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do? And that's when I totally made the hard shift to pediatrics without really having any experience in it, except for, again, kind of talking about how the answers were there if you kind of sit down and talk to yourself. Growing up, my family owned and operated a daycare. My summer jobs were coming home and um, taking the kids to playgrounds. I'd come home from school, I'd put my bag down, I'd prepare their snack, and then I'd make my own snack and go do my homework. So I'd been around children and around um, pediatrics my entire life, and just thought of, oh, because of what I think people are expecting, I won't be effective here. Turns out I'm
Mm-hmm.
incredibly effective, and it's because of who I
Mm-hmm.
am and how I was raised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so then again, making that shift out of the pandemic to pediatrics, I'm very lucky with some um, companies that took a chance on me with little to no pediatric experience. It was a good introduction. I covered a maternity leave during the pandemic. Kind of dipped. That was my first time in the pediatric business. Then I went to the outpatient clinic, Puzzle Pieces, who I credit them with teaching me almost everything. That's where I became a DIR certified floor therapist, floor time therapist, really started to learn what it is to be a pediatric OT. And now, this past September, I transitioned to an alternative school where it's just been a dream. So I'm very
Mm-hmm.
lucky. And that's kind of my story. And that's to
Mm-hmm.
September of 2023. So that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. I just wanted to say before you had mentioned like the setting. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but like playing with dolls and all things like that. And you're like, that's not for me. And I'm like, if I if you ask me a question, do I fit in that type of setting? I would be like, absolutely, you do. Like just thinking of you and your just energy and I don't know the like what you give off. I'm like, yes, I could absolutely see you in that setting. So it's funny to think that you didn't.
Yeah, I know
But
more about Pete the Cat and Avengers and The Mandalorian and Paw Patrol and Fireman Sam than any 31-year-old man should know about.
mm-hmm.
I grew my hair out,
Yeah.
yeah, balding, in order to teach
Mm-hmm.
little girls how to pull it up their hair and how to braid their hair. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh,
this is
yeah.
just things that we got to do. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't like, she's afraid of the comb. It hurts. And we're scared. Um, well, Mr. Tyler's got long hair and you can brush my hair. And I'm not crying
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not scared. So these are things that I'm doing in order to brush my hair. Again, help. What is
Mm-hmm.
this individual's differences? What does she need to do? And how can you help her
Mm-hmm.
through that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool. I wanted to reflect a little bit. I just hearing some of the things that you're saying. When I think about opportunities that I've had and ways that, like I said, going from PE to therapy, being in Arizona, like all of the above, I can really sit and say that I think a lot of things just fell together for me. I know that I
Totally.
put myself in good positions. I had good grades and so on and so forth, but it really does just feel like everything kind of fell into place and we adapted and went from there. And that kind of sounds like some of your story as well. And I just think that's so interesting how a lot of when I talk to people about opportunities in their lives and their profession or their passions or whatever it is, and it's like, yeah, I just kind of ended up, and it's just so interesting to hear that that is the case for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I appreciate like the gratitude that you share for everything, and it's just so important, and it's kind of like, of course you're gonna feel good, and of course you're gonna be so positive if you continue to reflect on that gratitude as well, which it sounds like you really do.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. I think that that's been a big one for me. I think it's easy to get bogged down with this didn't go my way, or
Mhm,
I'm not where I think I should be.
mhm,
Was a big one for me for a while, but then understanding like you're not where you should be, but as long as you're happy, and again, getting back to
mhm.
are your needs being met? Do you feel fulfilled? Then let's sit down and have that conversation of okay, then where do you think you should be? Let's be realistic. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And again, I'm
And a
I'm
lot.
I'm really lucky. So yeah,
Mhm. I was just gonna say a lot of times learning that you're not where you need to be and those tough like reflections with yourself is what teaches you where you do need to be. And like the hard times that you experience where it's like this is not it. And I've been in those situations absolutely. And um, I don't know, just previous jobs. And I know I want to be in the nonprofit field, and I kind of have to be in the nonprofit field because of student loans and all of these different things. But this one definitely isn't for me, and I'm passionate about it, but there's some weird feelings here, and
yeah,
just where those types of things take you and just bring you to something better. And
yeah.
yeah, it's just really cool.
I think being open to stuff and then trying to be positive while you're there can really
Yeah,
help in those steps.
absolutely. Yeah, cool,
Yes.
Ronnie.
No,
Just
I kind of want to, because it sounds like a lot of you're identifying what your needs are or other people's needs are, and just kind of meshing them up together. What's what? How do you feel about that life work balance?
Um,
Do you? Yeah. Yeah.
so that's a great question, and it's like, did you guys know? Did you fill him in on like how do you know this stuff about me? Because that's like that's what brings me to my next part of making that shift from the outpatient clinic to where I'm at now. And now you sit down and you analyze what do you want for yourself. So we've chased money and it didn't work out. We've totally um, changed our setting and it's going pretty well. And I was at an outpatient clinic that worked after school hours. So that was your 10 to 7, 11 to 8. So again, I thought I took this job. I was very grateful. I really loved the population and the setting and my coworkers. And I worked there for 2.5 years, and it was awesome. Except for again, I took that and said, "Oh, I'll just be a morning person, and I'll go for a 5 mile run every morning, and then I'll make a great breakfast." Or if I got to be work at 11, I'll sleep until 10:15, uh, and then stay up until midnight, 1, 2 a.m.
Mhm.
Because my needs aren't being met, and I want to. How come I don't get to live? How come I don't get to go on dates and work out and play basketball in men's leagues and do this stuff? And
Mhm.
I just thought, well, that's part of your sacrifice for loving what you do. Um, and then you ask about work-life balance. It was one of those things where I kind of had to convince myself this is not a good work-life balance. Staying up until 1 to 2 a.m. every night is not great. Um, you're not developing healthy habits. So, yes, you love this setting. Now, maybe it's time to be honest, have that conversation with yourself, and make sacrifices and find how you can put yourself in a better work life balance. What does that look like for me? Well, after school hours are killing me. What about regular school hours? What about an 8 to 4:30 workday? That's what I have now, and it's been awesome. I feel like that was the final piece of the puzzle. Was like
Mhm.
now I show up. I love to get there early because I love my job and I love to stay later, but me staying later is 5:30. And I have the whole night in front of me to do jujitsu and to do basketball and to go out on dates
Mhm.
and to spend time with family. And that's another one where, again, all these, we know all these answers because they're on social media and
Mm-hmm.
television shows and media, and our friends and family tell us like, you got to have a good work-life balance. Yeah, I know. Maybe you do, but I'm trying to do something here. And then it's,
Mm-hmm.
no, you need it too, dude, and let's have this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Um, so yeah, that's a good question. And like, yeah, that's wow, all your questions are kind of
Yeah.
kicking over into the next stage of my
There.
life. So ask another one and I'll find out where I'm going to be.
We'll do that on the next one, not this one. You gotta come
Yeah,
back. You gotta
sure,
come back
sure.
to it for us to do that for you. No,
Anytime, yeah.
but
Thank you. This has been awesome. This has been cathartic for me to sit down and
see, we
review.
get that every time, and
Mm-hmm.
that's no exaggeration. I think
Yeah.
we keep everybody's feedback in the episodes just so people can understand. This
Mm-hmm.
is not scripted. This is us just really
Mm-hmm.
flowing with the conversation and just kind of getting as much as possible for us to feed any listener so that they can have that knowledge to come with.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to
Yeah,
touch upon that life work balance because I'm a firm believer is you have to create your own life balance. If you're trying to fulfill yourself by doing one thing and say I'm going to adjust to this, well, you can do that, but you really got to be serious about it. And I love the fact that you said you did not feel
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled in this specific industry or field where it was that you were at that point in
Mm-hmm.
time in life, and so therefore you had to sit down with yourself and have a real conversation, something that many
Mm-hmm.
of us don't do. And
Yeah.
then you identify, all right,
yeah,
cool, I need to get into this instead of
Mm-hmm.
doing this. And that it helped you navigate. And I think that's a big, big piece. Of course, I think sometimes we can put ourselves in a position where we're one sided over the next. But then if you have that conversation with yourself, you can get yourself back to where you belong. Balance is only
yeah,
created if
Mm-hmm.
you create it. And I'll stay on that until someone can fight that against me because I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really heard anyone say I have life work balance or balance in general, and I
Mm-hmm.
haven't created it. It's been, kind of
Mm-hmm.
handed to me on a silver
It's
platter.
intentional.
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
and I think sometimes that the answer, having that conversation is the first step, but it's not the only step, and it's not the easiest step. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's having that conversation and understanding like, um, why aren't you happy? Why do you feel like you need to do this? I am when I was working for the after school hours and my work life balance wasn't where I needed it to be. Okay, let's have the conversation. What's going on? Well, I'm kind of feeling isolated and alone because everyone's on
Mm-hmm.
a different schedule than me.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you need to do to change that? I was lucky enough
Mm-hmm.
where there was options, but sometimes people don't have those options to change their jobs or to do something else, or
Mm-hmm.
people have you know real life concerns
Mm-hmm.
like children or health or
Mm-hmm.
financial situations where it's like you kind of have to have that conversation, but then also carefully identify what you can sacrifice, um, and timelines and what you need to do to put yourself in a position. Like, I don't like my job. I don't like how things are going. Like, okay, can you go back to school? Is that in the options?
Yeah.
And again, but getting back to occupational therapy, sitting
Mm-hmm.
down, doing a cost benefit analysis and understanding the external factors
Yeah.
to help you inform that decision. Okay, Ty, you've never worked in pediatrics, and no one's really going to hire you because you have no experience. So you might have to take the 6 month maternity job because they're the only ones. That's where you're at. They're going to hire you. You want to have the dream cushy job, make 90 grand at a school. Well, you don't have any experience, and they don't want you. So you're gonna have to learn to, put your dues in, get that experience, put yourself in a position where then you can have that conversation and pivot and get into what you think is best for your career, for your work life balance, and for yourself.
It's the tough conversations that enable us to unlock our the potential that's waiting right in front of us. And I want to ask this one last
Mm-hmm.
question, at least on my end. If Courtney, you have anything else, you can follow it up. But what's one thing that you really want to do but you just haven't done yet?
Like in my personal life, in my professional
Choice
life.
is yours, wherever the brain takes you.
Hmm, hmm.
Really put him on the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. One thing that I would really like to do that I haven't done yet. I think that I'll give two answers. I'll give a personal answer and then a professional answer. I think that because of my journey and my path, I think that I've made a lot of sacrifices, and I think that I've not been honest with myself and used a lot of maladaptive coping strategies. And I think my health and my physical fitness and my whatever is not where I want it to be. So I think that, and whether it was because of those stressors or not, that I don't think it I don't want to use that as an excuse. And I think that while I was dealing with it, it didn't serve me, and it wasn't something I emphasized. And whatever, now I got to deal with the consequences of that. So something personally that I really like to do is kind of get back my health, get back under control. I think I've taken steps, and I'm already down a little bit and more active and playing basketball and doing jujitsu, but really ramping that up now that I feel like I'm in a position to be successful at it. Before it was like, okay, I really like what I'm doing. Okay, Ty, you should wake up early now that you have the mornings and go work out. Well, I can't because I'm staying up till 2 a.m. because my work-life balance isn't where I
Yeah.
need to be. I think that now I'm finally in a place where I feel safe, fulfilled, my needs are being met, and now this is the time to grow and to reevaluate and to I forget how you phrased the question, Ronnie, but what do you want to do next? Let's get this
Mhm.
under control. Let's get back to this. And then professionally, I'd really like to just continue to develop professionally with certifications, specialties, continue to go down in, little shop talk here, DIR floor time certifications, SOS feeding therapy certifications, air sensory integration stuff. Again, I really like what I do, so I can kind of be a little nerd about it. And yeah, I want to learn and go back to school. And I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but really just to kind of continue to grow and develop professionally.
Mm, nice.
Mhm.
Courtney, you have any last remarks or anything? No?
I don't think so. I just
Absolutely.
appreciate the conversation. Yeah, I know Ty, you mentioned before like why why did I want to ask you that question, and the why the interest of having you on, and things like that. And I just know when I think of memories of our interactions at Springfield, it was always just like so genuine and playful and fun and kind and all of those things. And it just shows, I mean, your passion for your work is, so evident. And of course, work is what we're talking about, but your personality shows through. And it's just, I think this is a great platform for you. And it's just, as soon as, actually, you didn't bring up the podcast or being on the podcast, but just you kind of bring up the conversation to me. I was like, oh yeah, just have Ty on. That'd be perfect. Like, obviously, that'd be great. So yeah, I'm just really excited we're
Absolutely.
able to make this work, and I appreciate the
Yeah, and
conversation.
thank you guys so much for having me. And I think credit to you guys for sticking with something that I think can really impact people. I think that this is it's again, it's like what I'm always analyzing means and ends, right?
Hmm.
And I think that this podcast is a great means to help people understand that, like, yeah, other people are out there like me, and it's not the Joe Rogan podcast, and it's not these big fancy productions, and it's not ones with 100 million followers that are constantly being shared. It's real people having real conversations, and I think that credit to you guys where. And I don't want to speak for you, and please tell me if this is different, but I think starting something like this, there can be a lot of um, hesitancy or a lot of reserved emotions about okay, because it's kind of a theme that a lot of people now are in the space of I want to be an influencer, I want to have a podcast, I want to do
Hmm.
this, and I think people get into it for the wrong reasons. People want to do that to be famous or to make a lot of money. You don't know how many
Hmm.
friends I have who are doing the video game,
Streaming, yeah.
um, you know, streaming
Yeah.
Twitch stuff, and and it's because they want to be famous and they want to make a lot of money. And I think that it's really cool that if you guys can get rich and famous helping people talking about mental health, that's awesome. But
Hmm.
if you don't and you still raise awareness and really help people explore and learn about mental health and learn about other people's journeys and struggles and passions, that's even awesome as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Absolutely.
great for you guys, and I'm just again grateful and appreciative um, to be on and to have the
Absolutely.
conversation. So
No,
thank
no,
you
thank you
guys.
for being here. And I asked that last question
Thank
intentionally
you.
because I want you to listen to
Yeah.
that same episode 5 years from now and really be able to reflect. All right, this is what you said that
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to do. So now, hey, you put it out,
Mm-hmm.
and now
That's a
you
good
get to
one.
listen back to it. Now
That's
you
a
get
good
to
one.
listen
Yeah,
back to what you said,
sure.
and we could
Right
go
on.
ahead and live that out.
I was I was gonna say that before too. We were talking about like Ronnie, you had mentioned, I want other people to share this and I want people to listen to it. And then Ty, you had said like even just hearing yourself say it. I think about that all the time. Like listening back to the episodes, just hearing the
Yeah,
things that I say helps me so much. It's like, yeah, you gotta remember that. Like I'm saying it in the moment, but when I hear myself say it, it's like, dang, I said that, but I didn't really follow up on it. Like I gotta make sure
Yeah,
I follow up
sure.
on it. And we don't only want other people to come listen, but I hope the guests that we've had in the past kind of continue to listen to their own episodes and come back to it and say, what was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
lesson that I took from it, or what reflection did I have within myself?
yep,
And
totally.
yep.
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cool
Well,
reminder.
again, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully it won't be 5 years that we have another conversation. But I'll be
Yeah.
looking forward to listening to this episode. So
Hmm.
5 years from now, Ty, how's it going, dude?
Yeah, that's a
What's
good
up?
question right there.
Are you doing all right? Yeah.
So till next time, everyone, keep on
All right.
applying those perspectives, education, growth, and collaboration, y'all.